I'm like upsettingly close to this camera. I don't need to be this. Ooh. Ah. Ooh. Ah. So today we are going to be answering questions about my poetry book from my friends on Instagram. So I have all the questions here on my phone, and I'm recording with my iPad, like a literal iPad mom. And I'm gonna go through them and answer them. And we're gonna do this. So I think how we will do it is we'll talk about like the general questions first, and then we'll talk about the writing process, and then we'll talk about advertising, which is every author's worst fucking nightmare. It literally sucks, but we're gonna talk about it. First question that I got is, what is the retail price? The retail price is $19.99 Canadian. That is on Amazon, so amazon.ca, and then Indigo is $19.99, and Rickery Books is $19.99. So that's the price Canadian. I don't know if it, like, I don't know how it works in terms of other countries. Like, I don't know if there's like a currency change. I'm assuming there probably is. So I would, if you're interested in buying it, which, like, love to you, if you are interested, I would check your Amazon just to make sure you're not buying the wrong one. Moving into the actual writing process, another question I got is, were they written in the order that they are in your book? And yes, they are. So I kind of struggled with that. That was one of the things that I actually struggled the most with, was deciding how to organize the book, because a lot of times with poetry books, there is like sort of chapters. Like, there's like this theme, like sad poems, and then happy poems, and exciting poems, and whatever. And I really wanted to do that at first, and then the more that I wrote, by the time I was finished, I realized that I was just gonna leave them in the order that I had them in, which was just like chronological order of when I had written it, because I thought that it showed a healing journey, which is kind of what the book is about. It's about moving on from bad stuff, moving on from an old relationship, growing up, and I felt like it just kind of made sense to show the poems that I wrote first and then like kind of keep it going. I thought that was the most true way to organize it. How long it took to write and compile as a book, the process. So I started writing it in August of 2022, and I finished in March of 2023, and I published it in March, so I finished it like pretty close to the knuckle. But it took a while, but not as long. Like, there are some people who work on books for like years. Like, they're like, oh my gosh, you know, especially with novels, of course, they take years. Poetry is a little bit different, but I think it was pretty quick for me because it was just sort of all coming out. Like, they were essentially my diary entries, to be completely honest, which is why I was nervous about publishing it at first, because it was literally just like I was throwing up poems, not to like be gross, but I literally was. I was like, they were all coming out, and there was no stopping them. It was a floodgate. The process, so like, as I mentioned, it was kind of like a diary entry, because I would write wherever. So I had like a notebook. It's actually not this one, but I had a notebook in my car, and I had my notes app, and I would just like constantly be writing whatever sort of came to mind. It wasn't like I sat down and was like, oh, I'm gonna write a poem, or I'm gonna edit this poem, or I'm gonna work on this piece. It was more so like long, dramatic, emotional rants in my notebook and in my notes app, that I was like, after a while, I kind of looked at them and I was like, you know what, like, something can kind of happen, because there was a lot of poems, and I was like, you know what, if I put these together, like, this will make a book. And I was like, haha. And I was like, unless. So I actually did it, and yeah, it was pretty wild. It was a wild process writing it. It was definitely an emotional one. It was all stuff that really needed to come out, is what I'm trying to say. Like, it was stuff that was literally just like piling out. And that's why I kept it in the order that it was, because I wanted it to really show the journey and be authentic to how it was for me to experience, so that when people could read it, they could understand, and also maybe like connect it to them. They could be like, oh yeah, like there's, you know, there's not just like one linear journey of like healing or getting over a breakup or whatever. There's ups and downs, which I think is kind of shown in the book, that sometimes isn't, because sometimes there's pressure to like have all the sad poems here, all the happy poems here, all the moving on poems here. And I wanted to kind of show that like when you're moving on from things, it's not just like, oh, you just go up here. It's kind of like, you know. Next question I got was, what was the hardest poem to write? And there was a couple. I think like it was a really emotional book, and that's something that I was worried about when I was publishing it, was I didn't want everyone to be like, oh my God, Jesus, this bitch is sad. Like I didn't want, because usually I write more when I'm sad. I'm happy. It doesn't mean that I'm sad. But so there were a lot that were hard to write, but I think one of the hardest was definitely Crimson. Was hard to write. And 19 I think was hard to write, just because I wanted to make sure that I was doing the story justice, and I was kind of making sure that it was, what I was saying was true and wasn't overly dramatic or wasn't trying to be like showy. Like I wanted to keep it really raw and really authentic, which was kind of hard to do, especially when you know it's going to be published. You kind of have that like internal feeling of like, okay, maybe I want to tone back some feelings so I don't like come across as too, but I feel like both of those were really emotional for me to write and really kind of hard to write, but I'm glad that I did put them out there, if that makes sense. That brings me to my favorite poem on a lighter topic, which I think my favorite, I have a couple that I'm really proud of, but I think the one I'm most proud of is Down by the Fire, which is the 19th one. And that one's sort of about it's very philosophical. It's kind of about different memories in our life that remind us of like how small we are in comparison to the universe, which is such like a hippie topic. Like, wow, we're just floating on a rock, dude. But like literally, like that's what it's kind of about. It's about looking at the stars and being kind of amazed by it, which is such like I feel like a human experience. Like I feel like we all look at stars and we look at the night sky and we're like, wow, like that's like incredible. And like that feeling of just being small and that kind of curiosity about like what are stars and what else is out there, and it's sort of all those feelings intertwined. I was so excited after I wrote that one. After I wrote it, I was like, yes, I was so proud of it. And like I edited it afterwards and before I put it into the book, but I was so proud of that one, and to this day I'm still pretty proud of that one, because I feel like it encapsulates the type of writing that I like to write the most, which Firefly Nights is a lot of like autobiographical. Like they're all like stories from my own life, and they're all like stories about what I was going through, and a lot of them are hurt and a lot of them are sad. But this one wasn't sad or hurt. This one is, and honestly, this one wasn't even really about me. It's sort of about everything, as hippie as that sounds. But that's why I like it the most, because that's the type of writing that after I write, I feel the most proud of. Like I feel like my own personal style is a lot of sort of wider metaphors that aren't necessarily about me. And I love telling stories about like mythology and, you know, different spirits and from different perspectives and like different folklores and stuff like that. And that's the one that I feel like really gets my vibe. I liked writing Fate and Destiny for the exact same reason, because it had a little bit to do with my favorite Shakespeare, which is Macbeth, and I love Macbeth. It's like my favorite. It's like my freaking favorite. One of my favorite movies, one of my favorite books. I love Macbeth. I hate the rest of Shakespeare. The rest of Shakespeare can like fuck off and die. But Macbeth, so good. I love Macbeth. And I really liked How Do You Manage as well. I know there's like, they're like, oh, what's your favorite poem? And I'm like, here's like half of them. But I really did like those three. I think those would be my top three. So, Down by the Fire, Fate and Destiny and How Do You Manage. How Do You Manage was really special because it was the first one. It was the first one I ever wrote, and it kind of kicked off the journey. And I also got a tattoo for it. I don't know why I'm showing my arm. Like, guys, can you see the tattoo? Like, can you see it? Can you see it? See, I have a firefly. Oh my god, his sleeves are freaking tight. But see, there's a little Pluto there. How Do You Manage is about being in tune with your own feelings and being in tune spiritually and being in tune with your own emotions. And I really, really liked that one because I think it just kicks off and encapsulates the whole book's vibe, which is learning to really just like let it out and feel your feelings and not hide from them. Because I think that this book and the poems in this book was, for me, like a way of letting it all out that I had been like repressing for so long, basically. But yeah, so that was my other favorite. Sorry that I rambled about that for like 5 minutes. The next question that I got is, could you recite one of your favorites from the book? And I can. I have to find one that's relatively short so I don't talk for like forever. But I think one of my favorites is Tragedy to Gold. I literally just talked for like 5 minutes about my favorites. I'm like, this is my favorite, and this is my favorite, and this is my favorite, and this is my favorite. But like, there are some in this book that I'm proud of, and honestly, some that I'm not so proud of anymore. But that's maybe just because I'm grown. But I think that this one is one of the ones that I like that's shorter that I can read. Because if I read my favorite, which is Down by the Fire, or if I read Fate and Destiny, they're a little too long, I feel like. Where are you? Tragedy to Gold. There it is. So there she is. It's the 10th one. And I'll read it first and then I'll kind of talk about it afterwards. So it starts off, a foggy haze, but you turn to me and say, what a sunny day. Outside the rain is pelting, but I've never felt more like belting the love songs I write for you, the wrongs I write for you. When the day turns into night, I climb into the sheets we bought together, and we hide from the cold weather. Our realities are cold, these casualties aren't gold, but I think I'd rather be near if I gather you near. Early morning, you're at the piano humming. I made a melody from your words, I turned your tragedy to gold. And every time I see your eyes are sprinkled full of tears from all those empty years. And every time I mold a rhyme, mirrored on my own, you are my home. Ta-da! So, when I was writing all of Firefly Nights, I was single. So this wasn't about any guy or anyone that I had a crush on. It was just kind of about thinking about like sort of a gentle love. Like I was really inspired by a lot of songs and poems that I was reading about like just a gentle love, like not exciting, not passionate, not anything, but just sort of like the minute everyday sort of things that when you're in a comfortable relationship you experience, like sitting inside in a rainy day, which is what that's talking about. And it's sort of talking about, you know, like our life, maybe there's hectic things going on, maybe there's stuff, like the weather could be a metaphor for whatever is going on in people's lives. Like if you're going through something mentally, or if you're going through something financially or school or whatever, like whatever people are going through, sometimes love, like you can just kind of block it out and hide from it. So it's kind of contradicting to the message of the book, which is about embracing, you know, your fears and your sadnesses and sitting with it. But this is more so about like kind of hiding from it and finding comfort in hiding from it. And I just like it. I thought it was sweet. And the writing style is definitely different from what I write now. I think it's very rhymey, like very rhymey, but I like it. What's the story behind the cover? It is gorgeous. And the story behind the cover was that I tried for so long and failed to do the cover myself because I was broke. I was like, I don't want to pay for a cover, I don't want to pay for an editor, I don't want to pay for anything because I was broke first-year university student. So I was like, I'm just going to do it myself. And like I have some artistic abilities, but not enough for a book cover because I was trying for like weeks. I was like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna watercolor paint it myself, I'm gonna freaking use pastels. So I tried and it was like so bad. Like one of the covers was like this like hill, but like literally drawn like, and then like a giant moon, and there was fireflies going around the moon, and it wasn't working. And so I was like, okay, I have to look for someone So I was looking on Instagram, because Instagram has a lot of artists and they do commissions. Like, you can find some of the most incredible artists. And I was specifically looking for someone who had the vibe that I wanted, which is the vibe that I got. Like, I wanted sort of like a, almost like looked like it was painted or drawn. I didn't want realism. I didn't want a real person, because I hate those covers. I didn't want like anything like that. I wanted it to look almost like a children's book. So I wanted it to look very innocent and naive and young. I was on Instagram and I was looking, and I found Catfish Draws, which I will link her socials in the description, and she's also credited in my book too, if you look. Also, I stole my friend's copy because I left my book at home and I'm in my college dorm. But she is credited here, Catfish Draws, on Instagram. As soon as I saw her stuff, I was like, that's it. I was like, I want that. And so I messaged her and I was like, hey, like, crazy idea, but could I commission you to design a book cover, and like, I'll pay however much it is. And she got back to me, and she was really sweet and so fun to work with. Like, if you need a commission for art or for a cover or for anything, and you like this like style of drawing, you think that it's really pretty, because it is, I highly recommend her. She was so insane to work with, so fast. Like, it was done within like, I'm pretty sure like 2 weeks. She sent me like 3 alternative covers of this. She was like, hey, so I have like this one, and I have this one, and I have this one, so I don't know which one you want. I was like, Jesus Christ. I was like, that was fast. It was speedy. It was just like, here you go. And I was like, fireflies, yeah. Like, I didn't even really come up with the concept of this myself. It was almost like all her, and she got the vibe. Like, I told her, I was like, I want a lily of the valley. I want stars. I like the chunky stars in her style that she does. And I was like, I want like maybe pine trees in the background, and I definitely want a willow tree. And that's basically all that I really said. And I sent her like a kind of mood board that I'd done on Pinterest, and she like worked on it, and she got it done, and she sent it to me, and I was like, perfect. I'm pretty sure the only thing I changed was that I wanted the hair to be brown, because I wanted it to be like little me. But yeah, she was insane. So good. If you need a cover, if you need anything, if you need literally anything, go to her. So the next question that I got was, what was your publishing process like? Ups and downs. Let me tell you. I had always wanted to traditionally publish, because I liked the idea of not having to do marketing yourself, because I'm not really good with social media, and I'm not really good with like business. I hate business. I hate learning about business. I hate social media marketing. I hate all of it. And I knew that if you self-publish, you're going to have to be responsible for like convincing people to buy your book, and I was like, I don't want to do that. But when I started working on Firefly Nights, I had such like imposter syndrome and such a hard time like convincing myself that it was going to get published, because I had a feeling that like if I was trying to send it to like a traditional publisher, if I was trying to send it to them and they rejected it, I knew I did not have the self-esteem at the time to like continue trying. Like, I knew I was going to give up. And there was also impatience, because I was like, I wrote this and this is what it is. I don't want to change it. I want the rights to it. I don't want others to change it. This is what it is. I want it out like basically now. Like, I wanted to have it out. Because another thing is that I wasn't even sure back then that I wanted to try and make this a career, or that I wanted to try and make this something or anything. Like, I honestly just wanted to put it out there and have like myself be able to hold my own book, and have my friends be able to buy it, and my family, and they did, and it was insane. And then I was like, you know what, like maybe I should actually try marketing. So I went with Amazon KDP, which there's ups and downs to that. They don't pay a lot. Like, it's $19.99 and I get about 9, I think 8, which isn't horrible compared to like a lot of places and a lot of different publishing agencies. But in my opinion, it was worth it, just because the ownership of it, in a sense, is mine. You know, I'm not selling the rights to it to another person, which freaked me out. Amazon KDP was a little bit hard to work with at first. There's like, so you can go on Amazon KDP and they can give you like a list of things to do, but it's so much and it's so confusing. And honestly, that is probably going to be another video in itself, because it was so complicated. And I was like, was watching so many YouTube videos and trying to figure it out, and it didn't make any sense because I'm not very techie, and I was so confused, and I cried like 700 times. But yeah, that'll have to be a whole other video. But that was sort of the publishing process. I basically uploaded my file, and I checked it, and I had to format it right and do a bunch of stuff, and then I basically hit publish. And I ordered an author copy, and I got it, and I made sure everything was right, and then it was ready. And then I was born into the world, my firstborn child. What was your marketing process like? I'm in D2. It sucks. I'm gonna be honest, it's not great. When I first published it, I didn't really market it at all. I didn't really have, like, I had my writing Instagram account, but I had, like, I think 40 followers. They were all my friends. And it was mainly, like, my family and my friends who were buying it. And then after all my family and friends had bought it, it, like, slowed down. Like, it was like, woo, everyone bought it. And then, like, after everyone had a copy, it was like, and I was like, oh. I was like, oh, I actually have to do something. So I started trying to post more on Instagram. I started trying to post more on TikTok, actually. And that failed. Anyone who does, like, social media marketing or trying to build any type of social media thing, you know how, like, impossible it is. Like, I tried to post TikToks, and they would literally get, like, 200, 300 views. And if I posted any other topic from my book, it would be, like, 6,000, 20,000. Like, I would be advertising my book, and I'd get, like, 200 views. And then, like, I made a video talking about Hosier's new song, and I was like, it was literally just my face like this. Like, I was literally like, and there was, like, a caption about, like, I love this song from Hosier, just for shits and giggles. And it got, like, 100, 300,000 views. And I was like, and that happens all the time. So TikTok has not been it. Yeah. Instagram has kind of been where it's been at for me the most. I've made, like, a couple of writing friends off of Instagram, a couple of other author friends, a couple of book friends, just a bunch of people in the community who I like looking at their stuff, and hopefully they like looking at my stuff. I haven't done any ads. I haven't paid for anything like that, mainly because I'm broke and I'm a college student and everything goes to trying to eat. I kind of post the same regurgitated content on YouTube and Pinterest and Facebook every once in a while, and that's sort of what I try to do. Right now, my focus is on Instagram, because I have about almost 600 followers there, which is pretty good considering I was at, like, 50 a couple months ago. So I'm happy with sort of how it's building up, but it's definitely hard. You know, like, anyone who, and I've talked to other authors and stuff, and we all have the same thing of, like, oh, we hate social media marketing because we don't know how to do it, and it's struggling. But my advice would be to just, I guess, stay consistent with it, because that's what's helped me the most is Instagram Reels, to be honest, is I find easier than TikTok and anything else. I would stay away from TikTok. I mean, still post on TikTok, it's powerful, but fuck, it ain't happening. It ain't happening for me. So moving on to questions not related to marketing. I have, if you could have anyone read your book, who would it be? Ooh. See, my first instinct is to say Hosier, because his writing is incredible, and as a poet, as a songwriter, he's, like, absolutely phenomenal. Like, I don't know how he writes the stuff he writes. Like, I listen to his songs all the time, and I'm like, how? Like, tell me your secrets. He's incredible. So I feel like I would want him to read it, but then I also would feel self-conscious if he read it, because I'd be like, because he's, you know, like, he's so good, and I'm like, hey, you like fireflies? Like, it's so. And in terms of something, like, more, I guess, personal, I would want my Nana and my grandma to read it. They're both passed away, but I would have liked them to be able to read it. I think that would have been very sweet. And sometimes I wonder a lot about, like, what they would have thought about it, or what they would have said about it, and I hope they would have been proud, obviously. But yeah, so that's who I would like to read it. And the last question that I have is, what's one thing you would say to first-time writers? Well, that's deep. I would just say, like, write whatever is the most true to you, and whatever's coming out, whatever you need in that moment, right? Like, don't try to change it so much. Like, there's a difference between, I feel like, editing and making sure it's good and trying to like change it because you're worried about who's gonna read it, or you're worried about like, well, what's your family gonna think, or you're worried about this or that. I would say whatever you're writing is probably what you need to write. It's probably what you need to let out. And so just do it. Like, don't think about, you know, oh, what's my family gonna think when they read this, or what's my friends gonna think, or anything, or oh, but I want to write like this, or I want to write like this person. Like, I've struggled with that a lot, and I think it's changed some of my writing, and I think it's changed some of the writing in the book as well. So I would give people that advice. I would say just write whatever's natural, write whatever comes out, and that is it. I have answered all the questions. It was super fun. I like doing these videos. I mean, like, this is my first like YouTube video, so I don't really know what to expect. I don't even know how to post this. I used to post freaking hamster YouTube videos back in the day, so I've fallen from grace. Unfortunately, there's no more hamster content. There's only book content. Thank you for sending all the questions. Everyone who sent questions, thank you so much. I was worried I was gonna post that and be like, hey guys, do you want to send me questions for Q&A? And like no one would answer except for like my boyfriend and my friend. And they'd be like, hi, I love you. And I'd be like, thanks. My mom, like in the chat, like that's it. And in the meantime, if you're so inspired by this video, by me talking about it, you're like, oh my god, I gotta read that book now. Oh my god, she sounds so cool and talented and phenomenal and beautiful and gorgeous and wonderful. You can buy my book. Okay, no. Okay, but real, it's on Amazon. It's on Amazon and Indigo Cambridge Center and Rookery Books in downtown Galt if you're in the Cambridge area. And yeah. Thanks. Anyways, I'm sorry about that. I will see you in another video. Hopefully. Here's me. Okay. Bye.